When I helped you bathe, all you had to do was say thank you, not shriek and scream. Ghost. That rude ghoul in front of me, her face was deathly pale, and her expression displeased. Her jet-black eyes glared at me, blood streaming down from 7 orifices on her face, dripping onto the floor. Seeing my silence, she stretched her neck long, baring her teeth in a gruesome smile. A torrent of blood gushed from her throat. I instinctively recoiled, letting out a scream. The female ghost seemed quite pleased with my terrified face. Just as she was about to retreat, I roared, "I just scrubbed this damn bathroom clean." I quickly rinsed off the soap suds, put on my bathrobe, then grabbed her clothes, dragging her to the mop. "Now you immediately clean this floor for me. If I wake up tomorrow morning and it's still dirty, I'll drag you out to sunbathe." The female ghost said nothing, then a moment later, timidly spoke. All right. I'll clean it right away." "Right away what?" "Clean it for me, right this instant." The female ghost's voice started to well up with tears. I know. When I rented this room, the landlord had told me that the apartment wasn't clean, that it was a murder scene. Half a year ago, the previous tenant died a gruesome death here. Her body was dismembered, and the police only found parts of it. Her 10 fingers were still missing. I had seen this horrific dismemberment case on short video apps. Do you know? The victim's name was Wen Wan, 25 years old. The video had posted a candid photo of her. In the picture, she looked gentle and refined, but that same face had been brutally slashed by the killer. Because this area was an old residential complex with an incomplete surveillance system, the culprit had yet to be caught. Afterward, the room was rumored to be haunted. Many nearby residents reported hearing a woman sobbing late at night. As a result, the rent kept decreasing. I looked at the rental contract, 30 yuan a month, not including utilities. I resolutely signed for 3 months, saying contemptuously, "Are ghosts scarier than poverty?" The landlord admired my courage. He took back the contract, looked at me. This young man truly has guts. He scrutinized me from head to toe with a lecherous gaze that made me deeply uncomfortable. "Ah, you look familiar to me." I smiled, just an ordinary face, like anyone else. I casually wiped my face and returned to my bedroom. In the middle of the night, I was awakened by a chilling cold. I shifted. Opening my eyes, I saw a face disfigured by knife slashes. Her tongue was unnaturally long, her neck encircled by a rope that had dug deep into her flesh, skin peeled back, a truly gruesome sight that directly assaulted my vision. I closed my eyes, trying to suppress the urge to kick her off the bed. "If you disturb my sleep one more time, I'll buy Rooster's blood and sprinkle it at the door. You won't dare step in again." A moment later, Wen Wan's wronged voice echoed. "This is my room. You're truly unreasonable." I felt a pang of helplessness. "You're dead. Why don't you go get reincarnated?" This time, Wen Wan's voice held an ethereal quality, as if laden with immense powerlessness. "I cannot leave this room. Stepping out even once feels like 1,000 arrows piercing my heart. Moreover, I don't seem to remember anything. Because there was a ghost in the house, I worried she might get hungry and eat me if she starved for too long. So, after work, I went to a paper goods store and bought an incense burner and incense. On my way out, a man in a long robe bumped into me. The incense scattered all over the ground. He quickly apologized, bending down to pick up the incense and hand it to me. Just as I said it was all right, took the incense, and was about to leave, he called out to me again. "Your house has a ghost." I cautiously looked at him, only then noticing he was dressed like a Taoist priest. "Mind your own business," I said, stuffing the incense into a plastic bag and turning to leave. The man laughed, chasing after me to hand me a business card. "My name is Shu Kiao. If you need anything, find me." I originally intended to refuse, but as if possessed, I took the business card and put it in my pocket. Back home, I took out the incense burner, lit the incense, and placed it inside. Wen Wan floated over, her face filled with satisfaction. "Wow, this incense smells so good. It's nothing like the last incense I ate. That one smelled moldy." At this moment, I was studying Shukaio's business card, only giving a perfunctory reply. But then her words suddenly caught my attention. "Shu Kiao Taoist Temple, second in spiritual efficacy." "You ate incense before too?" She nodded. "Yes, I found it strange. Wen Wan couldn't leave this room, and there was no incense burner in the room when I rented. I asked her where she ate it. She led me, flying towards a wall. It was then that I realized this wall was a hidden door. It blended seamlessly with the living room wall. If you didn't look carefully, you wouldn't see it. I tried pushing it with all my might. The room door was locked, but fortunately, it was an old-fashioned lock, very easy to open. I turned and went into the kitchen to get a pair of scissors, jamming them into the door crack and prying. The door opened. The door opened. The room inside was very narrow, with no windows, only a simple table and a bed. Beside the bed was another small door. Wen Wan stopped beside the table. On the table lay her memorial photo. In front of it was a broken incense burner, holding 3 extinguished and moldy incense sticks. I woke up in this room, saw my memorial photo. When one pointed to the picture on the table, realized I was dead. The incense lit before the photo smelled moldy, not delicious at all. She spoke in an indifferent tone, as if recounting an unrelated story. My nose stung with emotion. I gently walked over and embraced her. A bone-chilling cold enveloped me, but I didn't want to let go. After a long moment, I gently released her. In this dark room, Wen Wan's memorial photo seemed even more eerie. I fumbled along the wall, intending to turn on the light, but my hand brushed against the doorknob, the small door beside the bed. I pressed the doorknob down, and it didn't budge. Could this door be broken and unable to open? I thought so, and just as I was about to let go, I unconsciously lifted the doorknob a little. The door opened. This doorknob opened by pulling it upwards. The door opened, I pushed it, and stepped through. The familiar environment stimulated my vision. On the other side of the door was my own room. I recoiled in shock, closing the door. At that moment, my phone rang. The insistent ringing now sounded like a summons from the dead. I hastily answered. On the other end was the landlord's voice. "Mr. Zhang, are you currently in the hidden room inside?" His voice was full of certainty, as if he had seen me enter that room with his own eyes. I found it strange and asked back, "How do you know?" The landlord fell silent. From the other end came faint, ragged breathing, mixed with strange noises. I felt uneasy and sharply demanded, "How exactly do you know?" The landlord's heavy breathing grew louder, accompanied by a strange, squelching sound. I instantly realized he wasn't just tracking me. A wave of nausea washed over me. I was about to hang up when I accidentally pressed the speakerphone button. Chanting echoed throughout the room. Wen Wan, floating beside me, heard the sound and suddenly bowed her head, covering her ears. Her entire ghostly form trembled, blood pouring from the 7 orifices on her face, letting out a shrill, piercing scream. I was frightened by her appearance. My phone dropped to the ground, and the noise vanished. Wen Wan then looked up, her bloodshot eyes staring at me, and lunged violently. Her hands clasped tightly around my neck, her mouth opening and closing ceaselessly, exhaling black mist. Dee. She strangled me until I couldn't breathe, only able to helplessly gasp before passing out. I woke up. It was already evening. Wen Wan was squatting beside me, sorrowfully caressing my neck. I struggled to sit up. The suffocating sensation on my neck had vanished. I slowly stood up. Nimnish. Having laid on the ground for so long, my back and knees ached, so I could only limp towards the bedroom door. Wen Wan followed me, seemingly wanting to say something. After a long moment, she finally mumbled, I'm sorry." I shook my head, trying to force a smile. "It's all right." Hearing my reply, Wen Wan floated over again. Are we acquainted?" My eyes widened at her words, my voice filled with anticipation. "Do you remember anything?" She shook her head. "Before you came, there were a few other tenants, but I couldn't touch them. I could only touch you. Moreover, just now, when I almost killed you, a voice kept repeating in my head. That voice told me, if he dies, I will deeply regret it." As soon as she finished speaking, a photo fell out of my pocket. Wen Wan was faster than me and picked it up. Oh. In the photo were 2 girls embracing, behind them a starry sky, and below a small line of text. Wen Wan and Zhang Yu forever together. What a coincidence, my name is Wen Wan. She turned the photo to face me. "Your name is Zhang Yu." Wen Wan said, blood streaming from her eyes. She had no memories, but her heart felt an immense sadness. I took the photo back from her hand, carefully tucking it into my inner jacket pocket. Wen Wan and I had known each other since childhood. She was my neighbor. When I was young, my parents divorced. Because I was a boy, neither side wanted to raise me. Finally, I was sent to my frail, elderly grandmother. Grandmother was old and had no income, living only on a barren piece of land. She didn't have enough to eat herself, let alone raise a 7-year-old child. Therefore, I often went hungry at grandmother's house, but I loved her very much, because if not for her, I would have had nowhere to go. I remember it was a cold night. I was awakened by hunger pangs. There was nothing left to eat in the house. So I fumbled my way into the neighbor's vegetable garden, intending to steal 2 cucumber. It was there that I first met Wen Wan. At that time, she was wearing her brother's old nightgown, holding half a steamed bun, leading me out of the vegetable garden. Hungry, aren't you? Eat this. Wen Wan's family also favored sons over daughters. That half bun was her dinner, yet she gave it to me. I carefully took it. Just as I was about to bite, I suddenly remembered the beatings and scoldings she endured. Wen Wan was also a pitiable person. By the moonlight, I looked at Wen Wan. She hid her hands in her wide sleeves, but I could still faintly see overlapping bruises. I thought for a moment, broke the bun in half, and gave her one half. Let's eat it together. In the cold night, 2 girls huddled in the vegetable garden, each holding half a steamed bun, carefully eating as if it were the most delicious food on earth. Afterward, Wen Wan often brought me steamed buns, sometimes a whole one, sometimes half. But this good life didn't last. Wen Wan's family discovered her giving me buns. Wen Wan was beaten mercilessly. I was heartbroken, but helpless. Grandmother at home heard about it, remained silent for a long time, and finally took out over a dozen yuan from under the bed plank, pulling out a few bills to give me, telling me to take them to Wen Wan's house. That was her medicine money. I didn't want to take it, but if I didn't give that money, Wen Wan might have been beaten to death. For the first time, I hated my own weakness and my parents' irresponsibility. After that incident, every month, like a hooligan, I went to my biological parents' new house, rolling around and shouting for child support. Not much, just 200 yuan a month. Though they didn't want to, they feared my grandmother and I would drag them to court and disgrace them, so they still gave me the money. With the money, I bought new clothes for grandmother, new shoes for Wen Wan, and the remaining 300 yuan for expenses. And so, abandoned by my biological parents, I lived with my elderly grandmother and Wen Wan, both unloved by their own parents. The 3 of us kept each other company. Later, in my senior year of high school, grandmother died of illness. By then, I was already 18. My parents no longer had any responsibility for me. They didn't even want to provide tuition fees. I had no choice but to work part-time washing dishes while studying, but my academic performance plummeted. And then, Wen Wan, the one whose parents made her drop out of middle school to work, came back to find me. She returned from the big city, wearing a beautiful dress, her face fair, delicately made up. I stared, dumbfounded. She smiled, taking my hand. Don't you recognize me? Her warm, pleasant scent made me flustered. I instinctively pulled my hand back. She paused slightly, then smiled again. Are you shy, then? This question made me blush. I stammered, unable to say anything. Wen Wan saw this and stopped teasing me. She composed herself and looked straight at me. All right, no more jokes. I'm here to tell you something. Don't work part-time anymore. Just focus on your studies. I'll take care of your tuition and living expenses. After saying that, she handed me a thick envelope. Inside was a stack of money. I refused to accept it. She seemed a little angry, her cheeks flushed pink, her beautiful eyes like a southern mountain breeze, dispelling the dampness of an 18-year-old boy. Wen Wan stood before me, her brows furrowed in anger, her rosy mouth opening and closing, saying something. But I heard nothing. Only her warm scent in my mind, and the phrase, "a beauty angered." After that, I accepted Wen Wan's sponsorship, finished university, and found a job in her city. Every day I picked her up from work, ate with her, watched her fall in love and break up. I kept my feelings hidden deep within, not daring to tell her, afraid she would think I was strange. I was like a mouse sneaking in a dark sewer, greedily soaking up her tenderness but never daring to speak it. Later, on her birthday, she was promoted. We celebrated together, taking a photo, embracing each other. When developing the photos, I secretly printed an extra one. On it, I wrote, "Zhan Yu and Wen Wan, forever together." But the day after the party, she told me she was being transferred to another city. At that moment, I wanted to quit my job immediately and go with her. But she refused. She said my job was very good, and quitting would be a great pity. She also said the transfer was temporary. Once the branch there was stable, she would return, telling me to wait for her. But I waited and waited and waited. I never heard news of her return. Instead, I heard news of her death. She was murdered in her rented room, dismembered, and the killer still hadn't been caught. The police informed her family. I secretly followed when her parents came to identify the body. Even though her remains had been arranged and the body parts reassembled, the gruesome wounds on her face, the deep ligature marks on her neck, all told me she had suffered unimaginable pain before her death. Yet, I had been unable to help her. Just like when I was a child. So I resolutely quit my job, went to the city where she worked, and rented the very room she had lived in. The police said the culprit acted with great skill, certainly not for the first time. So I took a gamble that the killer would come for me. But when I moved in, I didn't expect the first person I'd meet not to be the killer, but Wen Wan. I reined in my thoughts. Wen Wan had wiped away the blood from her eyes. We both said nothing and returned to the room. She slept right beside me. How many times had I dreamed of sleeping beside her? I never imagined it would come true this way. I sighed, trying to embrace the chillingly cold Wen Wan. In the middle of the night, there was a rustling sound outside the door. I am a light sleeper and immediately woke up. I sensed someone prying at my bedroom door, but they didn't succeed. Then, a creaking sound came from the small door on the other side. My heart jumped. I had been careless. Someone had entered the room. I abruptly opened my eyes. The landlord's face appeared above me. Seeing that I was awake, he immediately clamped his hand over my mouth and nose. Wen Wan, beside me, flew behind him, intending to help me. But as soon as she got close, she was repelled. I struggled desperately. The landlord pressed down hard on me. He dragged me off the bed, covering my mouth and nose, choking me, pulling me towards a small door. In my struggle, I saw a onesie talisman around his neck. My master had mentioned the onesie talisman, Danda. This was why when one couldn't get close to him, I tried to reach out, wanting to snatch it off, but he held me down tightly. Finally, I was dragged into the small room. Inside, The landlord tied me up with ropes. After securing me, he walked to the table and picked up Wen Wan's memorial photo. No wonder you looked familiar. You two know each other, don't you? I dismembered her. Found a photo of you two together in her clothes. He spoke in a calm tone, as if recounting an unimportant matter. Want to avenge her? The landlord laughed again, looking like a mad dog. You people are truly incomprehensible, trying to be heroes empty-handed. He looked at Wen Wan's memorial photo again. She was the same way. All I wanted was to play with her a little. What's so unacceptable about that? I even offered to reduce her rent for 3 months. Everyone else was fine with it. Why couldn't she be? Had to resist to the death. Now look, she got killed by me. Alas, what a waste. Such a beautiful face. My eyes were red with fury. You vile beast! The landlord walked over, looking down at me. Curse me. Keep cursing. The more you curse, the more I enjoy it. Are there ghosts in this world, I wonder? Is your friend watching now? He finished speaking, reaching out to caress my face. Good thing I tied you up first. Otherwise, if you resisted too much and I killed you, it would be a waste. After all, I'm not interested in corpses. The landlord, seeing that I couldn't resist, laughed louder. He bent down towards my face, but this action exposed his neck directly below my teeth. I lowered my head. He probably thought I had given up. I opened my mouth and bit down hard. Damn it! He screamed in pain, trying to pull his head back, but I bit down firmly, refusing to let go. He punched me in the stomach. The pain was excruciating, but I still didn't let go. He angrily punched again. I bit down harder, viciously tearing off a chunk of flesh from his neck. He broke free, but a bloody gash was torn open on his neck from my bite. He could only hold his neck with one hand and clench me with the other. You refused the toast. Now you must drink the penalty. Then you must die too. Go join your friend in the underworld. He had made up his mind to kill me. Wen Wan frantically lunged at him, but each time she was repelled by the Wanzifu talisman. She grew increasingly exhausted. Each repulsion depleted her energy due to the talisman, but the landlord was not as strong as he had been. He was only choking me. The Wanzifu talisman on his collar was pulled out, hanging directly in front of my face, very close. My legs were no longer pinned by him. I slightly bent my knees, using all my strength to push hard into his groin. The landlord cried out in pain, and his grip on my neck loosened. I immediately lifted my head, bit hard into the Wanzifu talisman, and violently tore it off. The talisman fell. Wen Wan's murderous intent erupted. She lost all reason. The flesh and blood on her face began to peel away, and the black mist around her turned crimson. The pupils of her eyes widened, becoming completely black. The room temperature plummeted, so cold that my breath appeared as white mist. The landlord noticed the abnormality. He let go of me, grabbed Wen Wan's memorial photo, which was lying on the ground. No, I had sealed her. The landlord's fresh blood dripped onto the photo frame. A crimson blood talisman gradually appeared, but Wen Wan was completely unaffected. She flew directly towards the landlord, her hands grasping his neck. At this moment, the landlord no longer cared about the wound on his neck. He pulled several yellow talismans from his robes and threw them at Wen Wan. Wen Wan touched the talismans, and black smoke billowed out. She let out a tragic scream, her entire body beginning to become transparent. She had already expended too much energy because of the Wan Zifu talisman, and now, struck by the landlord's talismans, she was at the end of her spiritual rope. But fortunately, I had seized the opportunity while Wen Wan was holding him off, forcibly pulling my hands free from the ropes. Thankfully, he wasn't a professional at tying knots. The ropes had torn the flesh on my hands, leaving them bloody. But I no longer cared about that. I ran to the table, picked up the broken incense burner, and smashed it hard on the landlord's head. Ah! The landlord screamed and fell to the ground. I endured the pain in my stomach, trembling as I picked up the ropes from the ground and tightly bound his hands and feet. The landlord tried to struggle, but I raised the incense burner and smashed it down again. He gasped. I never thought the makeshift altar and incense burner I set up would be used by you to beat me. Hearing that, I swung my hand and smashed it down hard once more. Damn you! You damn beast! This time he was completely knocked unconscious by my blows. I let go. The incense burner clattered to the ground, and I also collapsed. Wen Wan, beside me, radiated a red and black aura. Her eyes, devoid of white, stared fixedly at me, sending shivers down my spine. She wasn't right. This state was completely different from before. I even felt that in the next second she would lunge at me and strangle me. As this thought arose, Wen Wan lunged violently towards me. In that critical moment, I picked up the Wan Zifu talisman from the ground. Wen Wan stopped midair. She seemed wary, not daring to approach me anymore. I haven't encountered many ghosts, but I've watched plenty of horror movies. In this state, she had turned into a mindless, vengeful spirit. Just as we were locked in this struggle, dawn broke. The crow of a rooster echoed, and she stiffened, flying back into her memorial photo. The surrounding cold dissipated. I breathed a sigh of relief, looked at the unconscious landlord on the ground, stood up, and went to my room to call the police. When the police arrived, I was covered in blood, huddled on the bed, my neck bruised with ligature marks, hair disheveled, collar torn, pants half pulled down. Who called the police? I looked up at the police, my eyes filled with terror, my voice hoarse. It was me. My landlord. He installed hidden cameras in my house and snuck in at midnight, dragging me in there. I choked up. The female police officer beside me saw my pathetic state, and her eyes welled up. They asked where the landlord was. I pointed to the small room door. They entered. The landlord lay on the ground, the wound on his neck, though not deep, was a large chunk of flesh torn off by my bite, still bleeding. His head also had a large gash from where I had smashed it with the incense burner. The police took me and the landlord to the hospital. Although the landlord looked more pitiful, most of his injuries were superficial. After all, my strength was limited, but I was in a far worse state. My internal organs were damaged from the violent punches, and my vocal cords were injured from being choked. The hidden cameras he had installed in my room were also found and dismantled. The police followed the lead, retrieving the camera's memory card. During the video investigation, they captured footage of him breaking into my home through the hidden door in the middle of the night. His fingerprints were also found on my clothes, solidifying his guilt. Subsequently, the police connected this to the previous dismemberment case. They suspected the landlord was also the culprit in that case. So they asked the technical department to recover the videos on the memory card. Sure enough, they found footage of him luring other female tenants, as well as the process of torturing and dismembering Wen Wan. Faced with irrefutable evidence, the landlord could not deny it. Convicted of multiple crimes, he was sentenced to death. I attended the hearing. As he was being led away by the police, he saw me, his face showing no remorse, screaming wildly, "Your friend is dead? She will never be reincarnated." I said nothing, only lowered my head to study the Daoist priest's business card. Leaving the courthouse, I called Shu Kiao. He answered very quickly. I quickly recounted everything, then said, "I can pay you. Is 300,000 yuan enough? This is all my savings." Shu Kiao paused. "I don't need that." I panicked. "Then what do you want?" he replied. "The Wang Zifu talisman." I breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank goodness. That's something I can give you." I immediately agreed. Shu Kiao arrived very quickly. He wore a Taoist robe and a small yellow pouch, his appearance refined but not effeminate, with an air of heroism between his eyebrows and a lollipop in his mouth, looking very nonchalant. He entered the house with me, and as soon as he stepped in, he declared the yin energy was heavy. It was daytime now. Wen Wan hadn't appeared. Shu Kiao took a compass from his pouch. "Wandering spirits, heed my command. Swiftly manifest yourselves," he chanted, and the golden compass spun rapidly, finally stopping at the hidden door. He put away the compass, closed his eyes, pressed his fingers, and mumbled. A moment later, he looked at me. "The one who warned her has been caught, right? She must be Wen Wan." I nodded. "Yes, he's been caught." Shu Kiao frowned, muttering to himself, "He's been caught. Her obsession should have dissipated, so why did she turn into a vengeful spirit?" He thought for a moment, then asked me, was her body intact? I recalled the short video I had watched. "No, she was missing 10 fingers." He nodded. "No wonder. 10 fingers are linked to the heart. Her 10 fingers were severed and her soul sealed. The urgent task is to find her 10 fingers." I nodded, then suddenly remembered something. I hurried to the dining table. Wen Wan's memorial photo, which I had taken from the small room, was on the table. This photo frame was thicker than usual. I picked it up, tapped it. It was hollow inside. I carefully removed Wen Wan's photo. Inside, a small package rolled out, emitting a faint, putrid smell. Shu Kiao stepped over, picked up the photo to examine it, and suddenly laughed. "This killer even knows the soul-binding spell." I asked, "What is a soul-binding spell?" He turned the photo over, pointing to Wen Wan's face. "The killer severed her 10 fingers, then took this photo at the moment of her death, and then sealed both the 10 fingers and the photo in this frame for worship. This way, her soul would be perpetually trapped here, unable to reincarnate. Over time, she would turn into a vengeful spirit." He held the package that had fallen on the table and the photo, placing them next to each other, then closed his eyes and formed a hand seal. Heaven if it's fire, earth if it's calamity. As soon as the words left his lips, fire immediately flared before my eye. My eyes widened. I couldn't believe this sight. Shu Kiao laughed. You can see ghosts, yet you're surprised by this. After the fire completely burned out, only a pile of ashes remained. Shu Kiao used cinnabar ink to draw a talisman on the ground. He sat cross-legged in the center, closing his eyes. Now I will chant the rebirth mantra to help her cross over. I nodded, pulling up a chair and sitting beside him. From the pile of ashes, a wisp of white smoke slowly floated out. The smoke circled me 3 times, then slowly dissipated. I felt the pain engulf my entire body, as if something had been hollowed out from my heart. Shu Kiao opened his eyes, looking at me with a complex expression. After a long moment, he sighed. It's over. I nodded, took out the one Zifu talisman and gave it to him. Shu Kiao took it, examined it carefully, put it in his pouch, then handed me a lollipop. It's better to live a humble life than to die. Suicide prevents reincarnation. I smiled. I know. After Shu Kiao left, I slept wearily. I woke up. It was already midnight. Endless darkness enveloped me. I suddenly felt like a complete failure. I couldn't hold on to anyone I loved. Continuing to live seemed meaningless. Initially, I lived because grandmother was still there. I wanted to grow up and take care of her, repay her kindness. After grandmother passed away, I often thought about following her. But Wen Wan appeared, and my reason for living shifted to being by her side. But now Wen Wan was gone. The killer had been punished by law, and she had entered reincarnation. So, what was the point of me continuing to live? I clung to this thought, walking step by step towards the window. The sound of the wind whistled in my ears. Wen Wan and grandmother seemed to be waving from the ground floor. I yearned to go and embrace them. So I climbed out the window. My body plummeted, fresh red blood blooming like a flower of life at my feet. Shu Kiao had originally intended to return to his temple, but remembering Zhang Yu's despondent expression when he left, he turned back. He squatted outside the apartment building, eating a lollipop, telling himself he would wait one night, and if nothing happened, he would return to the temple. Who knew something would happen in the middle of the night? A terrifying loud thud woke him from his sleep on the bench. Zhang Yu had jumped from the building. Although Shu Kiao had suspected it, witnessing it firsthand still shocked him. It turns out such devotion unto death truly exists in this world. He pulled out his phone and called the police. While waiting for the police to arrive, he used his ritual implements to collect Zhang Yu's soul, intending to bring it back to the temple for passage. After all, he had accepted Zhang Yu's one Sifu talisman, so he might as well help him all the way, see him off to the Western paradise. The police arrived very quickly. After examining the scene, they concluded it was a suicide. The female police officer recognized the deceased as Zhang Yu, and her eyes immediately reddened. They called to inform Zhang Yu's parents, but both sides replied that they were divorced, had new families, and did not wish to come and claim the body. The body had to be handled by the police. Shu Kiao sighed. Zhang Yu was also a tragic soul. I hope in his next life he will have a good one.